We got NFL futures, dark horse teams, and Super Bowl predictions. Let's talk some NFL football. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back in to another episode for Just a Bet Outside. I am your host, Steven, and you heard that right. It is almost football season. I am jacked up, ready to roll. If you are new to the channel, I think this is our third, fourth season doing NFL, but we're going to be doing videos all season long. We're going to have a weekly trends and game bets video for that Sunday. We're going to have Thursday night football videos, Monday night football videos, and also the NFL player props that we usually do on every Friday night. So stay tuned. We got a lot of football coming up. And of course, I'll also be on the Kyle Kerm show again every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, breaking down all the games with them. And if you don't follow that channel, you are missing out because they have a ton of info. It is one of the best channels on YouTube right now. But anyways, quick reminder, the website is officially live in case you don't know, justabetoutside.com. You can join for free just to join the community. But if you want to use the premium betting tools, tax prep help at the end of the year, access to 250 plus books to shop your lines, betting contests coming soon, etc., etc. It's $9.99 a month, but you can get one free month right now. Try it out. Promo code JABO Launch. That's JABOLAUNCH. So, as for this video, I kind of mentioned already, we're going to give out, or I'm going to give out, my favorite future bets for this season. I have 6 of them. We're going to talk a couple dark horse teams as well as a few honorable mention type dark horse teams. And then I'm going to give my Super Bowl prediction because that's easy to predict what's going to happen in January and February right now, right? But anyways, it's a lot of fun. So before I start talking the bets and getting right into it, though, I do want to talk strength of schedule real quick. Something that a lot of people look at, especially handicappers, when they're looking at future bets. But also, over the past 8 years, teams facing the league's hardest schedule have really struggled to make the playoffs. Since 2017, 6 of 8 teams that started the year with the hardest schedule have missed the playoffs. This year, the Giants, that's brutal for them. Giants, Lions, Bears, Eagles, Cowboys, Vikings, Packers, Commanders, Ravens, and Steelers have the 10 toughest strength of schedule in that order. In fact, the Eagles and Lions both have 11 games against playoff teams from last season. That's tied for the most in NFL history. How about that? But anyways, I'm excited to talk some ball. Let's get into it with bet number 1. All right, my first future of the NFL season. How about Joe Burrow to win the MVP at plus 650 on DraftKings? Let's first start out with the worry here. The Bengals defense. That's the worry. It's going to make them not win as many games as they should. But you know what else is going to make them do? Throw the ball a whole heck of a lot. And that's going to help, obviously. But he has 2 happy receivers now, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, both paid well. Mims in this O-line, I think, should improve. I think it's going to be key for them. But this is arguably a top 3 quarterback, top 5 quarterback in the league. We all know that. It's just all going to come down to them winning some games. But the problem they have is starting off hot. Joe Burrow's 1-9 in weeks 1 and 2 in his career. That has to change this year, and that's why they're playing more in the preseason. They're trying to do different things. They have to get off to a quicker start. The coaches know that. Everyone knows it. He's coming in healthy, but he's also coming in after a really good season. 4,913 passing yards, 43 TDs, and 9 interceptions. It may just come down to them winning games. Again, he was right in the thick of the race, but he's not going to beat anybody like Lamar or Josh Allen when they're a 1 seed or a 2 seed. So again, this is a over 6-1, so we're getting some decent odds here. But the Bengals defense has to improve. I know a new coordinator there and everything. And if they can start winning some games at over 6-1 for a guy like Burrow. I like my chances. So give me Burrow to win the MVP as my first best bet. All right, we're going to start out with a few player props for some futures. In this second one, how about Trey McBride of the Arizona Cardinals over 4.5 receiving touchdowns? I got this at minus 120 on DraftKings. This is maybe my favorite one. It's the ultimate buy low spot. I know it's not great because it's not plus 500 or anything like that, but let's talk McBride real quick. Last season, he had a huge 147 targets with 111 receptions, but only 2 touchdowns. That's very uncommon. It's not for a lack of trying either. He was actually tied for the second most targets of all tight ends in the red zone last season with 21. Kyler Murray just could not get the job done in the red zone. He was tied for 12th of all pass catchers, not tight ends, last season with those 21 red zone targets. Inside the 10-yard line, he tied for 6th in red zone targets within that 10-yard line with 10. The 5 above him, Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, St. Brown, Adams, and then Jamar Chase. So, and McBride had 2 touchdowns. Chase 17, Adams 8, St. Brown 12, Higgins 10, and Jefferson 10. That tells you everyone had a ton of touchdowns, and then he comes up with 2. It's just one of those weird, fluky years, in my opinion, for TDs. They've tried to get him more TDs, and if you watch some of their games, he missed them on multiple occasions. That's one of their priorities this year. They've talked about it. So for a guy who may lead the league in receptions as a tight end, who had the 8th most targets in the entire NFL, I just think 4.5 touchdowns is insanely low. We should get some positive regression from him here. Overs are a bit scary with any player prop, obviously, because one bad injury could hurt. But even if he misses a couple games, I think this still has a chance. We're just asking for 5 TDs. So give me McBride over 4.5 TDs as my second best bet. All right, now for the final player prop future, I have Drake May of the Patriots. That's right, over 475.5 rushing yards. That's right, we are going a quarterback rushing yards. That's minus 115 on DraftKings. Of course, we need good health, like all player prop overs, but let's talk May last season. He had 421 rushing yards on 54 attempts in just 13 games. We're fully expecting him to play every game, obviously, if he has good health. And in fact, he didn't even start and play every game of those 13, but he had 10 games where he played 80% or more of the snaps. In those, he had 47 rushes for 371 rushing yards, on pace for 600 rushing yards. Now, if he gets all 17 games, obviously that's going to be huge here. Here's the deal with Drake May. He got practically all of his rushing yards on scrambles, like barely any designed runs. I'm going to expect some more design runs for him, and the coaches have talked about that as well. And I think what stuck out is his explosive runs. He was the #1 explosive run rate against among all quarterbacks, if I could actually talk. But in college, if you don't know, he had a combined 1,147 rush yards in the last couple seasons. This guy needs to use his legs for this offense to work. And May has the size and speed, if you haven't seen him yet, to break off some big runs. I expect some more design runs, which should really help here. I think he cruises over this line if he can just stay healthy. So give me May over 475.5 rush yards as my third best bet. All right, now it's time for our first team futures bet, and this is a beauty. The Saints to have the fewest wins in the NFL, plus 425 on ESPN bet. I only think there's like 4 teams competing for this: the Browns, Giants, Jets, and Titans. Sorry, 5. 4 other than the Saints. At over 4-1, I love this value. So let's talk the Saints first. Well, the quarterback combo with the coach is going to be a tough one because we're talking Tyler Shuck, I think is how you pronounce it, and Spencer Rattler competing for the quarterback position. That's not going to be pretty. Spencer Rattler did not look good last year. And when you have those two guys, not only are they young, they're also behind a bad offensive line. It's not going to be pretty there. Probably a bottom 5 offensive line, in my opinion. And then the head coach, also a rookie head coach, Kellen Moore. So he's going to have his own system, have to learn how to be a head coach on the fly in that first season. And again, I always think quarterback coach, most important 2 positions you can have. Obviously, you see Mahomes and Andy Reid and guys like that. But departures and additions to this team, it wasn't much. Lost MVS, lost Jamal Williams, did lose a couple O linemen that could hurt. They lost safety Will Harris, but they did add safety Justin Reed, who should add some experience here. Added Cam Akers, Brandon Cooks, nothing big here. They're going to have to adjust to a 3-4 scheme under Brandon Staley, who is the new defensive coordinator as well. Again, lots of moving parts here. They do have a lot of returning starters, but it's for a team that was not very good. This defense, in my opinion, has to be excellent to win games because I think this Saints offense could be one of the worst in the NFL. New head coach, new quarterback. Again, when you have a bad offensive line, that hurts. Obviously, Chris Olave, a great weapon here, but it's just not going to be pretty all around, in my opinion. So give me the Saints to finish with the worst record in the NFL as my 4th best bet. All right, this 5th one takes us to the NFC runner-up from last season. Give me the Commanders over 9.5 wins at minus 110 on FanDuel. The look-ahead lines for the Commanders have them favorite in 12 games this season. We need 10 wins, obviously. I think this is a little bit low. Let's talk the Commanders. On offense, obviously, we have a new star. Jaden Daniels, absolute stud. One of the best rookie seasons of all time. They added offensive tackle Laramie Tunsil and drafted Josh Connerly in the first round to bulk up that protection. I expect this to be a pretty good offensive line, actually. They added Deebo Samuel, which is, that Swiss Army knife, can run the ball to the backfield, run some shorter routes and get open. But re-signing McLaurin would be huge, obviously. They re-signed Zach Ertz already. I don't know what they're going to do with McLaurin, but this offense, either way, should be tough to stop. Defense, much improved the second half of the year. If you guys remember, we tried to attack their defense in bets because they couldn't stop anything. I mean, they couldn't stop anybody from passing the ball. And then all of a sudden, Dan Quinn and this team figured it out. Their pass rush was average last season when it comes to pressure rate. Dorrance Armstrong was a disappointment last year. Fowler is now gone, leading sack guy from last year. Yes, they lost Jonathan Allen. They're going to replace him probably with Javon Kinlaw. But D-line is a wild card. Linebacking crew, though, I do think is pretty solid. Frankie Luvu, great all-around linebacker. Bobby Wagner. That's right. He's old. Still had a solid season, though. Secondary, they played much better the second half of the season. Marshawn Lattimore, if you guys remember, they had a mid-season trade for him, but he got hurt, didn't really participate much. And then he and Sane Stroll, or I think that's how you pronounce it, Sane Ristel, something like that. They should be a good cornerback duo. And then second round rookie Trey Amos could also be a huge addition. So I do like what I'm seeing in the secondary linebacking crew. Like, I think the big question is how much pressure can they get on quarterbacks this year? But again, we need 10 wins. And when you look at their schedule, like I said, they're already favorite in 12 of those. I think getting 10 wins should be a decently easy task here as long as Jaden Daniels and these guys can stay healthy. So give me the Commanders over 9.5 wins as my fifth best bet. All right, this sixth one takes us out to the ATL. I'm going to go with the Falcons to make the playoffs, plus 155 on DraftKings. Now, they went 8-9 last season. Cousins was awful, but they transitioned to a rookie quarterback, obviously, with Michael Penix. Now, one of the reasons I like it, like we talked about at the beginning of the video, this is a team with one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. That's a big help here. As a lot is going to depend on Michael Penix. Obviously, if he just completely craps the bed, we're going to be in trouble. But I'm kind of a fan of him. He played at UW here around this area. I think he can make the jump. Offensively, they have the talent. And one of the best things I like to see when I'm betting any team to perform well, they have a solid offensive line. Lindstrom is an elite guard. Bergeron is solid. McGarry is a top 10 right tackle in this league. And then, of course, they have an elite running back wide receiver combo, Bijan Robinson and Drake London. London, if you don't know, had over 1,200 yards receiving last year on 100 receptions. And Mooney actually had a tick under 1,000 yards. Another great number 2 receiver. And then Bijan Robinson can do absolutely everything. He's a stud. Returning 10 of 11 starters. The only change is at center. You'd love to see that. Now, the defense was the problem last season. They couldn't get pressure on quarterbacks to save their life. According to Pro Football Reference, they had the 8th lowest pressure rate at 20%, 8th lowest blitz rate at 20.6%. They finished with the second fewest sacks with 31. Only the Patriots had less sacks than them last year. So now they were better in the last month of the season, but here's some additions they made. They signed Leonard Floyd, drafted 2 first-round edge rushers. That's right, used 2 first-round picks on Jalon Walker at number 15 and James Pierce at number 26. Could both of them be duds? Maybe. But you know what? Even if one of them is a huge contributor, that's going to be a help for them. And then Jesse Bates, obviously an elite safety. AJ Terrell, Mike Hughes make a solid corner duo. And then again, this division is not super tough. I think they have a chance to give the Bucks a run for their money. I do think the Bucks are good too. I'm not going to sit here and say they're not, but they have some easier games. We're talking Dolphins, Patriots, Colts, Jets, and Seahawks. Yes, my Seahawks are not exactly elite, but I like the Falcons to win some games here and just make the playoffs. Again, 3 wild card spots. I think they got a good shot at plus 155. So give me the Falcons to make the playoffs this year as my final futures bet for the 2025 season. Now, let's talk some dark horse teams. All right, I got 2 dark horse teams. And again, these are just teams I think, they maybe have a shot to make a run at the Super Bowl. I'll talk 2 honorable mention at the end, but that didn't quite make the list. But I just want to talk some football and talk different teams. And the first one, the Los Angeles Chargers. That's right. Jim Harbaugh is the reason now. This is not the same team that makes dumb decisions, dumb moves at head coach or anything like that. He has proven he can win everywhere he goes. He took, in my opinion, a below average roster, and they won 11 games last season. I know they didn't go deep into the playoffs, but what he did with that roster to be even in the playoffs and win 11 games was amazing to me. Now he added his type of players, drafted Amari and Hampton, who I love for fantasy, by the way, and added Najee Harris, an eye injury right now, but a good solid duo if he comes back. We know Harbaugh loves to run the ball. They drafted wide receiver Trey Harris in the second round, signed Keenan Allen again. Lad McConkey, we know, is a stud. Defense only allowed 17.7 points per game last season. Part of that, obviously, is they played at a very slow pace. But I expect them to have another solid season here. Herbert at quarterback, the difference since he took over, he came in and said, you know what? The entire offense is not going to rely on Justin Herbert's arm. He actually had the second fewest pass attempts last season and only had 3 interceptions. They played a little bit more safe with him. If they can get a running game going, that's what he likes to do. Tough division, of course. There's no doubt about it. And I know the Broncos are on the rise too, but I like Harbaugh on this team to challenge for the division. And even if they, make it as a wild card team or anything like that, if they can keep this offensive line together, I know they lost Slater, which was a big loss for them, but Harbaugh wins everywhere he goes. Herbert's a good quarterback, and I like Hampton and what they got on the defense as well. So I think this is kind of one of those sleeper teams. Again, picking a sleeper team in this division is kind of tough because there's obviously the Chiefs, Broncos, teams like that. But second one, the Houston Texans. Now, the wild card here for this team is their offense. We will need to rely on Nico and Stroud to have big seasons. The O-line was awful last season. I mean, it was horrendous. People were wondering why CJ Stroud sucked. One of the big reasons was this offensive line. They used a second-round pick on Ursary. Who knows if that pans out, obviously. But I think the success of this team comes down to the O-line play. They must be better. They did add Christian Kirk and a couple rookies at wide receiver because Tank Dell's out. No more Stephon Diggs, guys like that. I think Nico Collins is poised for an absolutely huge season. But defense, and this is why I like them this year. 6th in yards allowed, elite at pressuring the quarterback. In my opinion, this could be a top 3 defense in the NFL. It has that potential. And it starts with the pass rush duo of Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. Absolutely elite. Those two guys together had 23 of the team's 49 sacks last year. Added Darrell Taylor, added Autry to get even better. Decent depth at D tackle, we'll see there. They added Sheldon Rankins, but a very deep linebacker group. Aziz Al-Shair, elite in the run game. EJ Speed, good addition. Harris, just a lot of good running or linebackers. And then we all know the elite cornerback duo, Stingley. Derek Stingley signed a big deal. They got Lassiter also, solid as a rookie, should keep improving. And then Petrie, I think is how you pronounce it, based on all the rankings in PFF and all that, was a solid nickel corner as well. Gardner Johnson, a great addition. Bullock was a little inconsistent, but again, he was a rookie last year. And then, of course, we got an easy division for the Texans. You'd love to see that. Now, again, it's going to come down to this offense. They got to be able to score and move the ball, which means they got to be able to block for CJ Stroud. And if they can somehow improve in that area, even if they become average, slightly above average, I think we got a pretty good team here that can make a run. So those are my 2 teams for dark horses. Some honorable mentions I'll just say real quick. Broncos. I kind of mentioned it earlier. It's going to come down to Bo Nix. The NFL makes adjustments your second year. Can he make the adjustments back? But Sean Payton, obviously, a guy who knows how to put him in the right spot. He has a proven track record. Again, this is a tough division, as we know. I thought about going Broncos, but ultimately I liked Harbaugh and the Chargers more. And the next one, this is hard to say out loud. The Chicago Bears. Here's the reason. The revamped offensive line could be huge for this team. They added some absolute studs. Now, will they all mesh together? Will they all stay healthy? We will see, but they already had a solid defense. Can Caleb Williams be more accurate? He was pretty erratic last year. And now we have a new head coach as well. Ben Johnson, everyone's praising him. Yes, he's going to have a great play calling and all that kind of stuff, and maybe that puts Caleb Williams in better situations. I also like Adunze. I think he has a really solid year this season, but if Williams can make the jump and this, Ben Johnson head coach isn't an absolute debacle. We've seen some head coaches come over and have absolutely no idea what to do as a coach and making decisions, but that's just another one. So Bears and Broncos are some honorable mention, but I do like the Texans and the Chargers as some dark horse teams. So that's what I got for those. Now let's talk some Super Bowl predictions. All right, let's have some fun and talk Super Bowl predictions. Of course, predicting something like this in August is insane. Millions of injuries happen and all that, but let's have some fun. Now, first, let's start in the AFC. More than likely going to come down to what it always comes down to, the final drive of Bills, Ravens, and Chiefs. 2 of those 3 teams are probably going to be playing each other, but I think Baltimore's the more complete team right now. Lamar, I know he hasn't got over the hump. I think he can. In fact, he did last year. He looked really good. Mark Andrews made some mistakes at the very end of the season in the last drive that cost him the game. But I like the Ravens to come out of the AFC. I think they're a complete team. Maybe it's kind of a coin toss with the Bills, and Chiefs are always in it. We know that. But I like the Ravens to come out this year. And then the NFC, a little more wide open, I think, this year. Going back-to-back Super Bowls for the Eagles is not going to be easy. It's a very challenging thing for most defending champs. Lions, obviously, new coordinators, a couple big losses on the offensive line as well. Came quarterbacks like Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, and aging Matthew Stafford, rookie J.J. McCarthy. Can they make the leap? Can they show something? Like we talked about earlier, will Caleb Williams improve? So I think there's a lot of wild cards here. Obviously, Caleb Williams has a much better O-line now, but can the Commanders also repeat the magical run they had from last season? When I look deep into the Commanders, they were a team that, I really like them. I think I might take them to win the Super Bowl, but you know what? Their defense does worry me. I'm not going to lie. They didn't add enough pieces, in my opinion, but we'll see. Jaden Daniels might be able to overcome it like last year. So ultimately, I'm not a big fan of picking Super Bowl champs because it's really hard to go back-to-back. I mean, the defending champs, but they're just so loaded. It has to be the Eagles out of the NFC. And the deal is they're not relying on a receiver or anything like that. They're loaded in the trenches on the offensive side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball. I just can't see any of these other NFC teams yet making the leap to get over them. So it's kind of boring, a little bit chalky. But I like the Ravens to beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl this year. Ask me in 5 weeks. It might change. Who knows? But again, just want to give you some predictions and have some fun. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys have for a Super Bowl winner. And also maybe some comments about some stats you guys might like. If it's something easy and we can add to videos for the NFL, I'm all ears. So before we get out of here, though, let's finish it with the bets recap. All right, there are my 6 NFL futures for the 2025 season. Burrow to win MVP at over 6-1. Trey McBride over 4.5 TDs at -120. Drake May over 475.5 rush yards at -115. The Saints to have the fewest wins in the NFL +425. The Commanders to win 10+ games at -110. And we finish it with the Falcons to make the playoffs at +155 on DraftKings. And I got the Ravens over Eagles, at least as of right now. That will change week to week, maybe. But I do think those are two just solid, well-rounded teams. So it's fun to talk some football. Again, leave all your comments below. Let me know what you guys think is about to happen this season. Fun to make predictions, but I am excited to get ready for week 1 and give out some best bets and win some money this year. So again, if you haven't already, hit that like button. I would appreciate it, but hope you have a good one. We'll talk to you soon.